Family is the best place for an adopted child. Stay with us. You're welcome back. Well, more than 40,000 children have been legally adopted in this country. Many more were adopted outside of the law. Well, those children, many now adults, have no legal rights to their adoption file or birth certificate. Well, Gráinne Mason has been searching for her birth mother for the last 8 years and is here tonight to tell us her story. But first, this report from Ciara Doherty.
Adoption was first made legal in the 1950s in Ireland, and the country went on to have one of the highest rates of adoption by international standards. Over 42,000 people adopted under the terms of that legislation. Another 60,000 thought to have been adopted outside of the law. But should a child wish to contact their natural parent, or vice versa, access to documents like a birth certificate or an adoption file is severely restricted.
The problem with this is there is no search and reunion, as it's known in Ireland. So there's nothing in legislation that says you can go and get this information and these are the steps you need to follow. So it's very hit and miss, and unfortunately 99% of the time it's miss, and the information just simply is not there or is not being made available to the people who seek that information.
The adoption agency can assist in the search, but users say the waiting list is too long, and an adoption register, established in 2005, has a poor success rate, just over 400 successful matches. The lack of options can be very difficult to take.
That is literally soul-destroying. To be deprived of the most basic fundamental human information. Where do I come from? To whom am I related? It's inhumane, and it's deeply hurtful, and everybody needs the opportunity to reconcile the hurts that they might feel about being adopted, or on the natural mother's side, maybe about the shame or guilt they feel about having given up their child in the first instance.
Although a new adoption bill is going through the Houses of the Oireachtas, tracing and information rights have not been included. But the Minister for Children, Barry Andrews, says he intends to bring forward legislation covering this area, but campaigners put little faith in his promises.
Barry Andrews has done nothing. I'm just appalled at his let them eat cake attitude. He, of all people, coming from, political dynasty, has no queries about his own family. He knows exactly where he hails from. There's probably books written about it. But he has no understanding of this issue. He shows no empathy. We want birth certs because that's the most important piece of documentation for anybody embarking on a search. It will show their mother's name, perhaps where she lived, what her occupation was when they were born. Following on from that, we want access to adoption files, because the adoption file will show the father's name and perhaps information on the adopted person's siblings.
The Supreme Court does recognise the unenumerated right of a person to know the identity of his or her natural mother, but says these must be balanced with the right of the natural parent to privacy and anonymity. Those searching for a parent or child say the process is traumatic, but made more difficult by the state, whom they claim neither expected, encouraged, nor facilitated any contact between birth parents and their child.
Well, Gráinne Mason is with us. Gráinne, what do you know about where you come from?
I was told by my social worker that I was from the East Coast, I'm from St Patrick's Home on the Navan Road. It was a mother and baby home, and I was born on the 12th of May 1966. And that's all I ever knew until I started in 2002 the trace. My social worker then said to me that your mother, whose name is Evelyn, was from the East Coast area, not Dublin and not Wicklow, and that she had obviously given birth on the 12th of May. She had been admitted to St Patrick's on the 7th of February 1966. And other than that...
Do you know what time of day?
Yeah, 1:35 p.m. Okay. But she was also from a rural location, and she was living with her parents. And I know that she has a brother. I'm not sure of anything else after that.
Do you know her age?
No, because the age that was given on the file at the time of birth was wrong. So she could be any age. I'm looking at 10 possible people that it could be, because the age is wrong. So
to go back a bit, Gráinne, you were adopted by your adoptive parents, your mum and dad, and they adopted your sister as well. And you very happy childhood?
Yeah, typical, normal, middle-class upbringing, you know, we're camping holiday to Spain. We used to drive to Spain every year, or France, or wherever. So it was just a normal, ordinary family.
You always knew you were adopted?
Yeah.
Since you were a little girl? And when did you start thinking, I'd like to figure out who my biological mother is as opposed to the mum I know who I'm living with?
Yeah, I don't think it ever really... Sometimes, you know, growing up, there was always comments, little comments made here and there, or little looks. And going to school, one school wouldn't take us because we were adopted. That was quite common in Ireland back then, and in the 60s and 70s. Certain private schools wouldn't want you if you were adopted. And my mum...
Really?
Oh yeah, yeah. There's one particular school my mother went to try and get us in, and no, sorry, there's a much better national school down the road that would be better off for the likes of you. And my mother now, we had to go sort of to Blackrock to go to school. It was private school. And so from then, like, the nuns would always sort of be little comments. Even up as far as 1984, when I left school, I was told, you know, the nun would come in and, hands up those of you who are adopted. You should get down on your hands and knees and thank God there's people out there to adopt the likes of you. So you were always made aware of the fact that you were not quite the same as everybody else. Not every day, not every week, but it was always there. And I think it compounded when I actually got just a small portion of my file. You're not entitled to all your file under the Freedom of Information Act, and on it is born illegitimate typed. You know, on your documentation, you are illegitimate.
I don't think that word is allowed to be
well,
used. It's such a crazy,
it's not allowed to use now, but it's on
yeah.
your file. And as you know, if you're a child or you're even a teenager or an adult who gets this file, that's stamped on your mind.
To suggest that anyone would be illegitimate.
Yeah, especially a child.
The whole argument about nature versus nurture. Do you believe that Grania is who Grania is today because of the genetic code that your mother and father gave you, or how you were reared?
I think it was... some people say, you know, how they're reared, but other people who've met their biological parents or mother, the similarities and the mannerisms and the ethos is exactly the same. But I do believe that I am the person I am because of the way I was brought up by my adoptive parents. And, you know, they loved me like that was it. I was theirs and that was it. And they're my mum and dad.
Now, the social workers did make contact with your biological mother at one stage, and she said what?
I had approached and I was told, she had said, it happened a long time ago, I've gotten over it. And that was it, no more contact. They just said no. And at the time I had said to them, look, we might only have one chance with this woman, and, you know, please ask about my father, because there's... You know, it's 50% my mother, 50% my father. Sure. And I'd like to get, you know, if I could find out who he is as well, but they never asked her that. And I also sort of thought maybe if they'd offered her some sort of counselling, or someone could talk to her, that maybe she'd just give me 1 hour out of her whole life. That's all I'm asking, is just 1 hour out of somebody's life, just to find answers. Because I think it's... anyway, I got sick in 2003, and they told me, right, we'll write again once more to her, but we'll have to go through a different route, because we undertook not to have contact with her at another address they had used. And so they contacted her again through a different address, and she just filled out an A to Z of illnesses that I had printed off the internet. You were looking for a medical history because of your illness. Yeah. And they just printed an A to Z. I was told, go print an A to Z off the internet, and that was it.